Ever since Dying Light the Beast dropped 5 days ago, I've been playing it non-stop. I fell in love with the first game, and while the second had its flaws, it was still a good time. I've always loved zombie stories, The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, you name it, and Dying Light has always scratched that itch. Techland, the Polish studio behind the series, had a lot riding on this release. Dying Light 1 didn't wow critics, but players embraced it and it became a commercial success. Dying Light 2, on the other hand, didn't live up to the hype, and the Beast actually began life as a planned DLC, so naturally, skepticism was high. Would it just feel like an overpriced DLC, a reskinned version of Dying Light 2, or had the formula finally lost its spark? I'm happy to say that for me, the Beast hit every point I wanted it to, but it also represents something bigger, a rare moment where a game studio actually listened to its fans. I know, crazy, right? We've seen Bethesda snap back at criticism of Starfield, telling players that they're just playing it wrong. We've seen Bioware abandon the formula their fans loved with Dragon Age, essentially telling their old audience to get with the times. Nintendo keeps raising prices and even selling physical games without actual physical content. Ubisoft is telling players to get used to not owning the games they buy, and Randy Pitchford, the creator of Borderlands 4, dismissed fan frustration by flat out saying they're wrong. Time and time again, AAA studios treat their fans like a cash cow. The customer is no longer always right. In fact, in their eyes, the customer is almost always wrong. But Techland broke that trend with The Beast. This is now the highest rated game in the Dying Light series, and the reason is simple. They listened to their community. They took feedback, learned from setbacks, and built on what fans actually wanted. And they've been rewarded for it with success that many of these other AAA studios can only dream of. So in this video, I'll cover the history of Dying Light, what Techland got right with The Beast, and why it shows a genuine respect for fans. I'll also contrast that with studios who do the opposite, and explain why The Beast might just make a real shift in gaming. And hey, if you're new here and enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. Dying Light 1 released in 2015 and it had a unique formula, an open world full of zombies, packed with side quests, activities and a heavy focus on parkour. Both its combat and parkour style were sleek and responsive, which made the game not only good, but unique. We had seen previous open world zombie games like Dead Island, but never a mix quite like this. It also nailed its atmosphere with a day and night cycle, with the latter being not only scary, but incredibly dangerous, and volatiles chasing you relentlessly. People loved Dying Light because it perfectly blended fast fluid parkour traversal with tense survival focused combat. It wasn't flawless, but it delivered a unique mix of freedom, atmosphere and fun that clicked with players in a way that other games hadn't. Although critics graded it as okay with a 74 score, it was really a hit with the players and was both a commercial success and a fan favourite. Its main DLC, The Following, expanded the formula by opening up the world with wide rural environments, adding vehicles for traversal and combat, and delivering a darker, more ambitious story that raised the stakes beyond the base game. The writing was better, the world was larger, and the addition of vehicles enhanced the experience. This DLC went on to score incredibly well and is well known as being one of the greatest DLCs of all time. Dying Light 2 released in 2022, and despite appearing on the surface to be an improvement overall, it kind of didn't reach the heights. Now on paper, it was better. The open world was bigger, there were more quests, decision making was added, there were multiple ways to travel the map. It was essentially Dying Light 1, but just bigger and better. Yet, it disappointed many fans of the first game because despite being bigger on paper, it lost much of the magic that made the original special. The massive map often felt empty and repetitive, with activities lacking the variety and density that players loved in the first game. The new stamina system frustrated players by limiting parkour freedom, making traversal feel less fluid. The story, which was hyped as a branching narrative with meaningful choices, ended up feeling flat and forgettable, with weaker writing and unmemorable characters, and the nighttime, which had been so deadly in the previous game, felt far too tame and safe. To make matters worse, the game launched with technical issues and bugs that further hurt the experience. For fans that loved the tension, atmosphere and tight gameplay loop of the first game, Dying Light 2 felt bloated, less focused, and ultimately less impactful. That being said, the game scored well enough and it was a commercial success, but this was definitely a worry for the studio Techland. Critics often complained, saying it's just more of the same without adding enough new elements to make it stand out from its predecessor. The studio were at a point where their next entry, if it was received poorly, could mark the end of the series. It was announced that Dying Light the Beast would be the next installment. It was originally planned as a story DLC for Dying Light 2, but in 2023, major story details leaked online, forcing Techland to rethink the project. Instead of releasing spoiled content as a small add-on, the team decided to expand it into a full standalone game. This shift wasn't just about the leak. The developers became more ambitious, ideas began flowing, and the concept quickly outgrew a DLC scope. With inspiration from veterans who had worked on Dying Light 1 and the following, the project exploded into something much bigger. It became, essentially, Dying Light 3. And boy, did they deliver. Having played it almost to completion, I feel this is the best entry in the franchise, and critics agree. What began as a side expansion ultimately became the highest rated game in the series. So how did they do this? Well, they listened to their fans. Techland built Dying Light the Beast by taking the best parts of the series and fixing what didn't work. From the first Dying Light, they kept the raw survival horror, the tense nights, and smooth parkour. From the following, they brought back vehicles and a larger, more open world. And from Dying Light 2, they listened to criticism, cutting the bloated map, removing the stamina gauge for climbing, making nights terrifying again, and ditching fetch quest side content. They even addressed story complaints by bringing back fan favourite Kyle Crane and delivering a tighter, more focused narrative. They took the strengths from each, including Dying Light 2, and put them together and then improved on them. They heard the criticism on some aspects and removed them completely. The result is the best of all worlds and the best entry in the series. Now, on paper, this sounds easy, right? It's not exactly rocket science, but believe it or not, most AAA studios can't do this. The first mistake many developers make is that they chase trends or mass appeal. An example of this would be the Resident Evil franchise. The first 4 entries from that series were survival horror through and through. They were scary, gory, dark, and had you on the edge of your seat. They were horror games. Then 2009's Resident Evil 5 changed this instead, introducing a co-op action-focused experience. Zombies now had guns. The sequel, Resident Evil 6, took the action element even further, adding in run-and-gun mechanics, action set pieces, wall crawling, and excessive quick-time events. These 2 games were completely unrecognizable to the previous entries, and the series lost its identity. The reason they did this was to chase mass appeal. At the time, games like Gears of War and Call of Duty were dominating the charts with action-based online gameplay. They made more money and appealed to a wider audience, whereas survival horror games were more niche. They chased the money. Dead Space 1 and 2 were survival horror, then Dead Space 3 went for an action-based online co-op as well. Bethesda shifted from immersive RPGs like Morrowind toward action games like Fallout 4 that added in settlement building, following trends like Minecraft. Whereas the Dragon Age series changed completely with Dragon Age the Veilguard. It abandoned its strategic decision-focused roots for action, even briefly planning to make it an online battle royale to chase the success of games like Fortnite. The point is, so many times certain games come around, they become successful, they establish a dedicated fan base, and then they turn their backs on those same fans in order to chase trends and naturally get more players and a higher income, searching for mass appeal. The result is often bad, as they lose their identity and then they lose their core fan base. Resident Evil 6 is the lowest scoring game in that franchise, and they went back to their core horror roots with the sequel, which has now established Resident Evil as back to their best. But for the others, Dead Space was cancelled after the 3rd installment, Dragon Age the Veilguard flopped, and Bethesda are on the decline. There are many other examples I could give, but the point is, if a studio stops making games for their core audience, they lose their identity and go into the abyss, leading to their demise. What I love about Techland and their approach to Dying Light the Beast is that they stuck to their roots. They could have changed tactics to get more mass appeal, make the game easier, make it less scary, more forgiving, but they doubled down on what their fans wanted, and what we see now is a return to form. The lesson is simple. Chasing trends might make short-term profits, but staying true to your core audience builds lasting success, and Techland proves that listening to fans can create not just a game, but a franchise reborn. Now, the other element is actually listening to fan feedback. Believe it or not, we have seen countless examples of AAA studios doing exactly the opposite. When Starfield launched, it received criticism, with many leaving comments on Steam. Bethesda responded to each one of those comments, explaining that the game was good and that the players weren't playing it right. Borderlands 4 has just come into criticism, and the studio boss hit back at fan negativity, saying, "If you take developers' passion for granted, we'll all pay the price." It wasn't criticism, it was pessimism. Listening to fans and respecting their opinion is much rarer than it should be in this industry, and often, rather than taking on criticism constructively, most studios take offense and mistake it for blind hate. People didn't love Starfield and shared their reasons. Bethesda declared Starfield as their best game and then released a DLC which was even worse. So although it sounds easy to listen to feedback and learn from it, it's rarely seen. Techland managed to take all the feedback from all their games, good and bad, and ended up making the perfect game for those very same fans, showing how valuable that feedback can be when handled correctly. Finally, there's the money side of things. Too many AAA studios have shifted into microtransaction mode. Bethesda pushes subscriptions and loot boxes in Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online. Bioware launched Anthem. Ubisoft packs every game with microtransactions, and Nintendo keeps hiking prices. It often feels like they care more about their shareholders than their actual players. Fans are left asking, does anyone still make games for the love of the craft, instead of just squeezing every penny out of us? I've recently done a video on this here if you want to check it out, but the main point is that fans now feel disillusioned by how AAA studios view and treat them. But there is a solution. Baldur's Gate 3, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Expedition 33, Tainted Grail, Witcher 3, and now Dying Light the Beast. There are still many studios who stick to their niche, listen to their fans, and focus on giving the best experience possible. Money is not their priority. Satisfying their fan base is. Creating the best game possible is. Money is just a bonus feature that comes with that. For example, players receive Dying Light the Beast for free if they own the Ultimate Edition of Dying Light 2. This was a way for Techland to show appreciation to their community. They didn't have to do this. They could have just said, it's a new game, you have to buy it, but they did. They didn't have to turn a DLC into a huge game, but they did. They did it for the love of gaming. Witcher 3, a 10-year-old game, received a free update in 2022 which added new quests. Cyberpunk gets new content added for free every year. Baldur's Gate 3 follows this same pattern, and the developers of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Warhorse, often have meet and greets with their fans. The point is, these studios are not only delivering the best games, but they're looking after their fans and adding content just out of passion. It just turns out that the byproduct of making great games and looking after your own fans is financial success. Contrast this to other AAA studios I mentioned earlier, and it's night and day. So let me get to the point of this video. Dying Light the Beast represents a shift in gaming because once again a smaller studio based outside of the USA has over-delivered. I'm not sure what's going on over there in Poland right now, but they are absolutely smashing it out the park. Same with studios based all across Europe, Japan, and other locations too. It's crazy because if you go back to 2010, American studios were the ones dominating, and now they're falling behind. The reason? They prioritized revenue, income, and pleasing shareholders above satisfying their fans. They would rather give us a Fallout 76 with microtransactions rather than the Fallout 5 that fans really want. We're seeing this shift in gaming now where fans are gravitating away from those studios, losing trust, and these newer, smaller studios are coming in and taking the accolades. Just look at the Game of the Year nominees this year. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Expedition 33, Silksong, all made from smaller studios based outside of the US. The AAA studios who once dominated are no longer in the running, despite them dominating for years, and it is for all the reasons that I've stated. Dying Light the Beast isn't just a great game, it's a statement. Techland proved that by listening to fans, learning from past mistakes and prioritizing passion over trends is the best way to ensure long-term improvement and success. In a gaming world dominated by microtransactions, mass appeal, and shareholder priorities, Dying Like the Beast shows that respecting your audience still wins, for both players and developers alike. But anyway, that's it for this one, but now I want to hear your thoughts. Have you had a chance to play the Beast? Do you agree with my assessment in this video? And if not, why? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, Av out.